Welcome back, everyone, and thank you to Unilever Food Solutions for sponsoring this break. I hope that you all enjoyed the different activities you participated in and met a couple of new people and even so old friends on the platform. We are now going to head to the Mediterranean Plant-Forward kitchen to talk about time-tested flavors and innovative menu strategies. There's no question that the Mediterranean basin has long known how to do plant-forward, with produce, grains, and small amounts of animal proteins being central to cuisines there for millennia in some cases. And the Mediterranean diet represents one of the most well-researched, well-loved plant-forward dietary patterns for advancing health, sustainability, and deliciousness. But the diversity and appeal of its plant-centric core is still largely undiscovered by the American public beyond the very basics, and under-leveraged by chefs and operators. So hopefully this session will change some of that. We will start with a presentation that contextualizes plant-forward around the Mediterranean by presenting a wide range of dishes thanks to Aglaia Kremezi, award-winning cookbook author and founder of Kea Artisanal, who joins us today from Greece. Hello, Aglaia. How are you?
Hi. How are you? I'm here in my kitchen in Kea, Greece, and normally the kitchen would be buzzing with people because we would have had people now here, but of course, you know, we don't. And but my husband and I still cook and bake, and we also, you know, make marmalades, and we use the products of our garden. But the problem is that our big table in the veranda under the mulberry tree is empty. It would have been full of people because we were supposed to have 12 guests from the United States who would have, you know, enjoyed the dinner and all the dishes that we have cooked together, and then wines and cheeses and all that. And then, of course, chatting and exchanging ideas. We really miss that. And our dog misses that so much that she's depressed. Can you imagine?
Oh.
I would have liked to show you our garden, but it's night here. But I guess that through the slideshow, you will get an idea of what we have, what our harvest is this time of the year. So I'm very happy to be with you, even from afar.
Thank you so much for being with us, Aglaia. It's so great to see your face and your smile, and I'm really looking forward to the day when I'll be at that table.
Sure.
And so let's watch the presentation you've prepared for us.
Vegetable dishes from my Cycladic island kitchen in Kea, and also from ideas from chefs in Greece and the Eastern Mediterranean. From our garden, chard, fresh fava pods, scallions, and chervil. And from our neighbor, her overflow of delicious thorny artichokes. And because we don't want to waste anything, we ended up cooking and eating artichokes for days recently. All vegetables taste so much better with olive oil. Olive oil braised artichokes, carrots, and peas are brightened with lemon juice. They don't need much else. This is one of my latest appetizers, the olives with the artichokes that I preserve. We have an abundance of chard leaves, And fortunately, they make a lot of different dishes. The leaves are big and they make the most easy bundles with enclosing any kind of filling. These dolmades, the stuffed grape leaves, are the most common all over the Mediterranean. Also the cabbage leaves. Stuffed onions are my favorite late summer dish. If you came for lunch today, you would probably tasted our butter-fried fava pods from the garden, or eggs with fava pods and croutons. And some more humble garden-to-table dishes, again with the fresh fava pods that we love. The weeds that grow in the fields or in the mountains, we love to forage them, and we eat them in various dishes. Mixing wisely the various kinds of greens with herbs, sometimes with cheese also, makes these dishes really memorable. Of course, the homemade filo helps. Creative chefs improvise a lot around the basic horta salad, the greens salad. Greens, of course, help us create various main courses, main dishes. Sometimes I may add meatballs in the broth with the greens and then serve them with egg and lemon sauce, or one can add fish. From Crete, an unusual protein, snails cooked with the artichokes and greens. A root vegetable which is not very common in the Mediterranean, the kolokasi or taro root, is braised with tomato and celery in Cyprus. Salads are seasonal. My winter salad is shredded cabbage with lettuce, and sometimes I also add my pickled red and white cabbage, the pink stuff in the middle, and here also some borage flowers. The so-called Greek salad is served in many variations, usually in the summer in Greece. And here we have it with some pickled vegetables and octopus. And to the right, there is the chef's variation with paksimadi, which is like ground twice-baked bread and whipped feta. Paximadia, savory barley biscotti, accompany cheeses and all kinds of meze. At Zaytinya restaurant in DC, the special seasonal salads can be really spectacular. The green chickpea pods are painstakingly shelled in the kitchen to make the green hummus. The summer eggplants are used to make a variety of appetizers and also main courses, of course. But this simple version is my absolute favorite eggplant dish in the Mediterranean. Each Greek cook, I guess, has his or her own variation of stuffed vegetables. My stuffing has rice, farro, wheat berries, and also herbs, lots of herbs, raisins, and pine nuts. This is my festive fall and winter stuffed vegetable dish, which I serve along with, sometimes along with stuffed quince. And they can be prepared in advance. They are a fantastic party dish. Fresh cranberry beans in the market. We also get them frozen all year round. Green runner beans braised in fresh tomato sauce with plenty of olive oil are delicious. I slow bake okra in a clay pot with fresh tomatoes and oregano. These are an ideal salad or side dish served with grilled fish, but also with meat, the green black-eyed peas. I dress them with a simple garlicky vinaigrette. In Cyprus, black-eyed peas are often cooked with squash, and I sometimes add it to my chickpeas. The Lebanese Arab fatet hummus, chickpeas with toasted pita and yogurt, is a spectacular and delicious dish. Now, zucchini season is upon us, and I like to fry the blossoms simply stuffed with a piece of fresh feta and a mint leaf. Served in homes and in taverns, they are just either drizzled with olive oil and vinegar or with a more elaborate dressings like my tomato and garlic vinaigrette. This is a dish similar to what the French call flan, and it can be served hot or cold and made with zucchini or with squash. To make the vegetable fritters, the vegetables are chopped and mixed with breadcrumbs, herbs, and maybe cheese, and they are shallow fried in olive oil, of course. You will find this meze fava in all Greek taverns. I serve my mashed yellow split peas, or fava as we call it, topped with caramelized onions and capers, or with scallions and bitter greens. Herbs like this pungent wild savory, thrumbi, also all kinds of spices and spice blends play a crucial role in Eastern Mediterranean cooking. And since we also have lots and lots of lemons in the Mediterranean, we preserve them in salt. Salted lemons create these Moroccan preserved lemons, which are now ubiquitous. And in closing, I would like to dedicate my presentation to the late chef Floyd Cardoz, who was the victim of this horrid epidemic. His brilliant tweak on the traditional salted whole lemons creates fruity, delicious preserved lemon segments that I use all the time in various forms and dishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aglaia, and thank you for bringing Floyd's memory back to everyone. We're all together at Worlds of Flavor in Napa in November, and we lost a dear friend. So we are going to, one of the things I was thinking when watching your presentation, and it's so easy, and I think everyone who's cooking at home now is realizing the complexity behind some very simple flavors and very simple things, right? So what seems so simple when you're eating at a restaurant is a lot harder to make delicious at home. And this complex layering of flavor is very much a key Mediterranean element, and also a great way to create healthier dishes. So we're going to continue talking about that with our three demos upcoming. So we're talking culinary strategies. You can find the recipes demoed at plantforwardkitchen.org. You receive the password you'll need to access them in your final details email on Monday. And we'll start with a short video and then a chat with each chef. And at the end of the session, we'll have time for a conversation with all of them and for your questions. So please enter them in the chat on the right as you did for the previous panel. First up is Michael Costa, head chef of Zaytinya in Washington, D.C., who will demonstrate a Lado Lemono sauce they use on a variety of dishes at the restaurant. We're going to watch his video.
Greetings from Washington, D.C. My name is Michael Costa at Zaytinya restaurant here in the Penn Quarter. Today we're going to make Lado Lemono, which is one of the great condiments in the Greek arsenal, one of my favorite sauces. It is a very simple thing, and like many very simple things, it's extremely versatile. So the way that we make it is, this is a blender sauce. So we have some freshly squeezed lemon juice here. We have some really outstanding Greek honey. Tiki is a brand that we really love. We have some salt, we have some white pepper, And then we like to put a tiny bit of xanthan gum in ours to maintain the emulsion and to thicken it a little bit more than you would get if you just used the honey. And then we have a combination of canola oil and extra virgin olive oil here. We put the canola oil in because this sauce is used and served cold. If it was all olive oil, it would congeal and it would be really difficult to use as a fluid. So the olive oil that we like to use is Petrina. This is a really excellent Greek oil, one of our favorites. But you know, for a sort of workhorse, ubiquitous sauce like this, it just has a nice mild, fruity sort of flavor, a little bit of the peppery bitterness that you associate with great olive oil. So in order to make, first our lemon juice goes in the blender. Then we're going to scrape in our honey. If you don't have access to a tiki, you know, obviously some really excellent local honey. Try to avoid any of these sort of adulterated stuff. So that goes in. Next, we'll add our salt and our white pepper. Then we're going to turn on the blender and we're going to sprinkle in the xanthan as the blender rolls, because it will just resolve in a clump if you don't add it with the blender going. So we get it started low, turn it up. And then we're going to just slowly drizzle in the olive oil. You don't have to be quite as cautious as if you were making a mayonnaise, but it needs to be an emulsion. So we'll get this going in. So then when you're satisfied that you've blended it nicely, what you end up with here is just a nice, creamy, lovely emulsion. We love to use this in salads as a dressing. This is fantastic on cooked vegetables, on grilled seafood, roasted meats. I mean, you name it. This is really the most versatile thing that we make. And I was so excited to be able to share this with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michael, for this video. And we are now going to go live to you in Washington. Welcome. How are you doing?
Doing awesome. Thank you very much. Hi.
So clearly you're in the restaurant. So
Yes.
How are you working these days?
Working is awesome. I get to be a line cook again. It's been years since I've been running a station or been a dishwasher or the receiver or any of those things, but it's been a blast. It's a lot more fun than sitting and working with spreadsheets, that's for sure.
And so you're open for takeout?
Yeah, we're operating a community kitchen 7 days a week, feeding those in need. We are also offering delivery service on a limited basis through Uber Eats, DoorDash, and you can call the restaurant directly as well.
Okay. And so you have with you your best-selling Brussels sprouts dish and a Turkish bean salad where the sauce goes. So show us and tell us about them.
Yeah. So Zach, if you want to aim at the piaz over here. So the way the piaz comes together, we have these lovely Greek giant beans. If these aren't available, any bean that you like can be used. Black-eyed peas are also really lovely done this way. There is some kale, which you won't necessarily see in Turkey, but any kind of like bitter wild green that you like would be awesome. Some sun-dried tomatoes, and then to sort of take on that idea of seasoning a vegetable dish with meat, we have pasturma, which is an incredible cured beef loin. Gets rubbed with a blend of spices called chemen. We like to then slice it and julienne it, and it goes in with the nice warm beans with the cooking liquid and the broth, and then we finish with some of that condiment lato lemino that you saw us make. And that's basically the dish. Really validly healthy, beautiful, delicious, very satisfying. One of my favorite things on our menu. And then, yes, if you want to talk about the Brussels sprouts, this is Brussels sprouts Ophalia. The word Ophalia is the Greek word for a coriander seed. We take this lato lemino base and then we whisk in a little bit of Greek yogurt and honey to get a sort of slightly creamier, thicker sauce. Then we put a lot of coriander seeds in it. The nice thing about Brussels sprouts as a vegetable is they have such an assertive flavor. You can really throw the house at them. It's very hard to overwhelm their natural character. So These have just been quickly fried. 350 degrees is good. You want them nice and golden brown where the leaves are crispy, but the cores are a little bit tender. To plate up the dish, and the recipe for all this is going to be with the source materials. We just take some roasted garlic yogurt, put a few dots of it on our plate. Then we're going to take our Brussels sprouts that we have fried, drained, seasoned with salt. You can be pretty generous with salt here. I mean, you know, depending on how you like your food to taste, but I think this is one where you'd want to be pretty assertive with your salt. Then what we'll do is take the coriander lato lemino sauce that we just made. I'm going to spoon this around. Then we can take some dill that we've chopped and just kind of tap that around. And then we're going to finish with barberries. These are a really interesting exotic ingredient. If you have access to your local Persian grocery store these days, these are just absolutely incredible. Botanically, they're related to sumac, but what they bring is this really vibrant, bright acidity and nice kind of berry perfume. And if you want to treat yourself to a little bit of finishing salt, depending on how you've been doing with your salt these days, that's a nice touch as well. And there we go. That's Zaytinya's Brussels sprouts Ophelia, our best-selling dish, actually. Now, if you wanted to enhance this one with some meat, Lucanico sausage is a fantastic way to do that. Lucanico is a great Greek sausage. Unfortunately, ours isn't available right now, and I'm sure a lot of you will experience different kind of like supply and demand issues, so I couldn't garnish with it today, but believe me when I say that some nice crispy bacon on this would be fantastic as well, and I don't believe that bacon has gone out of the stores yet. So yeah, that's basically what we have here. And do you have any questions for me, or?
We'll take the questions at the end of the session.
Okay.
So we're well, I was just thinking that, you know, kale was the hip vegetable, then cauliflower is the new kale. Brussels sprout has remained Brussels sprouts, and it's remained very popular, and that's always great to see.
Yeah.
So we'll see you again in a few minutes. Thank you so much for these wonderful dishes, and we are now heading to Italy via Wisconsin with Paul Bartolotta, the chef, owner, and co-founder of Bartolotta restaurants in Milwaukee, who will demo Carciofi. So let's roll his video.
Hi, everybody. My name is Paul Bartolotta, and I'm located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in my restaurant Harbor House. I want to thank CIA for inviting me to their Global Plant-Forward Culinary Summit virtually. I thought I would start with a recipe that would be a base recipe we'd go on to use for all four of the recipes we're going to be demonstrating. They're all online, of course. So the first one is Carciofi alla Romana. And I have artichokes that I put in a little bit of vitamin C water. So we have a pan here where we have fresh mint, fresh parsley, fresh basil, and sliced garlic. We're going to take our artichokes. We're just going to arrange them inside of here very quickly. We're just going to put a little bit of salt and pepper on here. And then we're going to put a little bit of water in the bottom. And then we're going to cover them in olive oil. What we normally do is just take a little bit of paper on top, parchment, put it on top of it to keep it submerged. And then we cook this in the oven or on a burner very, very slowly until they're done. The end result will be an artichokes like this. And for the professional amongst us, we oftentimes in the restaurant, we cook them sous vide, about 85 degrees, depending on the size, somewhere between an hour and 15 minutes. We'll end up with a dish like this that we can simply take a really nice olive oil on top and just a little fresh black pepper. And here you have Carciofi alla Romana. Okay, so now we're moving on to our second recipe, using the Carciofi alla Romana as a base or a staple that we're going to carry through. We've cut them up into wedges. We've lightly tapped them dry to get the oil off them. We lightly dust them in flour. And then he's just putting them in here with a little bit of batter, similar to a tempura, a couple of eggs, a couple of egg yolks, a little cornstarch, a little bit of rice flour as a combination. I like the rice flour added to it to get a little crispy, but you can see how beautiful these come out. Carciofi fritti. So now we're on to our third recipe, which is also an antipasto. It's a salad this time. And so we're doing a little bit of a wilted arugula salad. with the artichoke hearts that are sliced thin and sauteed with some beautiful porcini mushrooms that happen to be in season right now. So we've got these porcini mushrooms and artichoke hearts that are sauteed together in a little bit of brown butter and a little bit of olive oil. We want to get them nice and golden. And while we're doing that, we're going to make a very simple vinaigrette that has a little bit of balsamic vinegar, a little bit of sherry vinegar, put a little bit of salt, and the recipe's up on the website, a little bit of black pepper in there, a little bit of brown butter because I'm a big fan of brown butter vinaigrettes, and then, of course, beautiful olive oil. That we're going to now use to make our wilted salad. So we have our sauteed mushrooms. We're going to put a small amount of our vinaigrette on here to flavor them. We're going to season them up with a little bit of salt and a little bit of black pepper. And now we're going to add this hot liquid, this hot vinaigrette, and this hot vegetables right on our salad. Because we want to wilt the, we want to use the artichokes in the oil. And by the way, the oil that we used to make the vinaigrette was the artichoke oil that we used to cook the artichokes. And so we put it on top of it like this, and it wilts it and brings out the natural oils. And then what I like to do is take a little bit of a Tuscan pecorino cheese, like a cacciota, and I just rip it in here with that warm oil. It'll bring out the beautiful flavor in that. And a little bit of cheese on top. And there you have it. For the final dish that we're going to do today, we're doing olive oil poached fish with artichokes and tomatoes. So we basically took the wedged artichoke hearts, sauteed a little bit of garlic, a little olive oil, a little bit of white wine, put a whole sprig of fresh oregano inside of there, cooked that slow with some cherry tomatoes. And then we took the fish, salt and pepper, and a little bit of fresh oregano, and we slow olive oil poached this. You could also cook that sous vide if you'd like. And then all we're going to add to this is just a little bit of freshly chopped, coarsely chopped oregano. Then we're going to put inside of here a little bit of chopped parsley, and at the end, we're just going to put this here at the bottom on the dish. And of course, always finish with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil on top of the dish. And of course, a little simple garnish, maybe a little bit of fresh oregano on top. Pesce con I carciofi. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, I cannot wait to go and taste all of this. Paul, welcome. And I want to start by congratulating you on your James Beard nomination for Outstanding Restaurateur. That must be good news.
In these times, I'll take whatever I can get. It's quite a big honor to be nominated by your peers. So it's a big deal. My little bittersweet because my brother and I started our company 27 years ago in Milwaukee. More people know me from New York and Chicago and Vegas, but my brother and I started this 27 years ago. He passed away around this time last year, so it's a little bit bittersweet because this is not something as a best restaurateur. It's something you do alone. It's something you do with a team. It was my brother and I, plus an incredible group of people that I have the pleasure of working with every day. So. Mm-hmm.
And obviously people with whom you shared a love of Italy. And I know you have a prop with you to tell us all about Italian and Mediterranean diet.
Well, I saw Aglaia's presentation, and, I am not going to be outdone by her PowerPoint. So I created my own, and I wanted to frame it with a little bit. So a tad of my background, I'd worked in about 15 restaurants in Italy from Sicily to the Alps. And in every region of Italy, you'll find very unique food styles, ingredients, many more of the bitter greens. They're available throughout the peninsula, but certain bitter greens, certain things are found in certain areas throughout Italy. They're all available, but there are certain recipes that come from that area. And what I want to talk about, I focused on carciofi because number one, they're in season. They're my favorite vegetable. I wanted to show the versatility of braising them, sauteing them, a slow olive oil poaching them, frying them, so that there's all this different variety. But I also wanted to put it into context of how the Italians utilize it. So listen, the Mediterranean diet is popular for so many reasons. First, because it's actually delicious. And then we stumbled across the fact that, oh my goodness, great, people live longer when they eat this way and they get to eat delicious food. So the combination is perfect. And in my journeys throughout Italy, what I learned was so different from how we eat food in the United States was the number of courses and the reduced number of portions, the use of vegetables in their cookery, legumes, nuts, all different types of green vegetables, greens, bitter greens. Bitter greens as an example, in the United States, we tend to like sugar and we like our sweet and we like our salty. We're getting better with our acid and we certainly have our greatest room to grow with bitter. We don't necessarily love bitter. So I did the rucola salad because I wanted to tell people that having a little bit of a bitter green and by wilting it a little bit with the warm vinaigrette, it sort of wilts it and it brings out a nuttiness that's not just bitter, but shows more dimensionality to the salad. But in the Italian kitchen or in the Mediterranean diet, it's more about coursing and about portion size. So to not be outdone. So in the typical American plan, the American diet, not to be insulting or rude, we start out with a salad. Then we have this enormous, veal chop, pork chop with potatoes. And then we move on to cake and sweets. Okay, rude generalization. The Italian diet is a little bit different. It begins more with the antipasti, then a smaller portion of pasta, then a yet smaller 3 or 5 ounce portion of protein, whether it be, fish obviously being very popular, fruits and nuts, and then last, sweets and different types of cakes and desserts. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the versatility of the Mediterranean diet because you immediately see the similarity between, the fried Brussels sprouts that Michael did, or you even saw Aglaia, the artichokes with the carrots and the peas, but all the use of bitter greens, puree of favas. We have very similar items in Italy. Mm-hmm. And when you look at my little pyramid, a traditional Italian diet would be an antipasto, mean something before the meal, pre-meal. And your first course we call primo would be your first course. And so it's a 2-course meal, but what the Italians eat the most of is the antipasti. So yes, there may be some salumi, some cold cuts, there may be a little bit of cheese or not, but it's very vegetable forward or some sort of light fish. It could be a shrimp with beans. It could be, but then again, there are things like caponata and different, purees of fava beans. And there are things like funghi trifolati that are mushrooms that are sauteed with herbs and marinade. You have things like scapece, which are a little bit soaked in a little bit of vinegar with different herbs. So there are so many different things you can do in the antipasti. So as I'm looking forward to reopening, one of the things that we've struggled with, and I think we're feeling this globally, is how do we have restaurants that are half as full and then take our guests on a journey? And so what I'm thinking about is doing an assortment of antipasti in the center of our table for the people, because we're going to be running inevitably, at least in the beginning, with a little bit fewer staff, mm-hmm. and our seating capacity is going to be less. So how do we take the guest on a journey? Because what they're searching for today is delicious flavors, healthy food, and something experiential, because people have been locked in their homes. So we're thinking about doing, yes.
I'm going to have to stop you.
I know, I'm so excited.
We'll continue the conversation so that we have time with the Q&A, and I'm sure people will be building on that to be asking questions. So we'll continue when we're back together. So
that was 4 minutes. I was just getting warmed up.
I know. All right. See you very shortly.
Indeed.
Our final virtual trip takes us to Catalonia/Austin, Texas, with Daniel Olivella, the chef owner of Barlata Tapas and Bar.
Hello and welcome to Austin, Texas. My name is Daniel Olivella. I'm from Barcelona, Spain, and I run Barlata Tapas Bar. We're gonna present today you 2 dishes. One we're gonna do it, the other one is already finished. But both of the dishes, they represent the truly authenticity of the Mediterranean diet. Over here we have a soup made with garbanzos. It's got vegetables, spinach, it's got pine nuts, it's got currants, olive oil, and a little bit of garlic. We're gonna finish with a 5-minute hard-boiled egg. And then over here we got a combination that I really like very much. It's a base of samfaina, which is a vegetable sauce with cauliflower. We make a cream cheese sauce with a blue cheese, red pickled onions. We put pimenton oil, and then we finish it with a few microgreens. We're gonna do that one dish. Over here we have the ingredients that they made this dish so wonderful. We got red onions, combination of red, yellow, and orange bell pepper. We got some garlic here. I have smashed it already. We got one of my favorite and most unique spices in the world. This is called pimenton. It's a Spanish smoked pepper. It's almost like a paprika with the difference. It is fire roasted and smoked. And then one of my trademarks, the sofrito, sofrigit. This is about an hour and a half to 2 hours reduction of onions and tomatoes. We got a few chili flakes here. And excuse me, I forgot the eggplant. That's one of the main ingredients of the dish on the vegetarian part. And then we're gonna finish this decorating it with microgreens and with some red pickled onions. And we have the other main actor here, or actress, is the cauliflower. The cauliflower fresh, we have blanched it with hot water. We shock it in ice water, and then we grill it, and then that's how we bake, how we build the dish. Let's go back to point A again. The most important thing in this dish, I think, it's the samfaina, which we got in here 3/4 of the way done. I sweat first my red onions with olive oil and salt for about 45 minutes to an hour, covered at a very, very low heat. I add the chopped garlic or smashed garlic. I add it to my reduction of onions, and I keep stirring it up. Imagine this is covered with a lid. It's sweating. You stir it up. Add the combination of peppers. When the peppers are done, the same here, this is about another 45 more minutes. You see, it's almost like a marmalade. That's when we add the eggplant, we mix it, we add some sofrito, and then we add some pimenton. I forgot to tell you that at the beginning of the process of when I put the peppers, I put a little bit of chili flakes to give it some spiciness. Once this is done, this is what samfaina becomes. A luscious, wonderful vegetable sauce. I compare this to the base in jazz music. That's how I end up doing fat in my food, by sauteing, stewing a bunch of vegetables with olive oil. Always cover. I tell everybody, wait about an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to make sure you get the right samfaina. Once we get the samfaina, we lay it on the bottom of this dish. We put some cauliflower that I said we have blanched, chopped with ice, and then grill. We top this with a combination of cream and this beautiful Cabrales blue cheese from Spain. We make this cream reduction with this cream sauce. We add it on top. We bake it, and that's when it comes out. Okay, we drizzle it with an oil that we've done with pimenton. We have roasted onions and pimenton and bay leaf, and that's how we make this oil. We drizzle it on top. All right, and that's how we create this dish. To finish here, for you folks to see, we got this beautiful egg in here, 5-minute cooked egg. And we're just gonna break it beautifully. You see, it mixes with the sauce, with the soup, and then you get your own spoon here, and you're ready to eat this. All right, and over here we have the little tapa vegetarian that really we sell a lot of it. All right, folks. I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope everybody's doing well, and hopefully next time we can all get together. Peace.
Great. And Daniel, you're just live. Hola.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm glad to be here with you guys, sharing precious time with Michael and Paul and Aglaia, and listening to everybody and seeing that we all share the same basic idea of feeding people properly.
And before we go to audience questions, which you can enter in the chat on the right, you told me you wanted to talk about shopping and the Mediterranean diet. So let's go shopping.
One of the luxuries that we chefs have in the United States, and I've been in the United States cooking for about 35 years now, is that I've seen the progression of a country that went from eating meat and potatoes and drinking coffee with their trout to the sophistication of our days, in 2020, that people go beyond their knowledge to feed and to receive influences from all over the world. I come from Catalonia, and I think we're very narrow-minded there because everything is Catalan. Greek food, which is right around the corner, it's almost exotic. So we're very fortunate, I think, to be in the United States where all this palate is virgin and everybody is always willing to try new things. And as simple or complicated as we can do our dishes in the restaurant, my strive and my goal in the United States right now is help educating people of how to eat at home properly. And I think one of the unique things that the COVID brought to us is the fact that people are eating at home now and people are cooking more. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to show people how cook Mediterranean without getting too sophisticated, but bring the flavors into the dish. And that's what I'm trying to teach people, that going shopping is super important, because if we have this Mediterranean diet, it's because everybody goes to the market daily. If you eat fresh fish, it's because you get fish in the morning to eat today. You don't buy the fish today to be eaten in 3 or 4 days or to throw it in the freezer. But this is hard. This is hard to educate people here because we have different social system, a different economical system, and we got to work and produce and work and produce in the United States. So the time shrinks a lot to the point that you don't have time to cook and recreate. So you got to tweak it. You got to go shopping maybe once or twice a week, prepare your stuff and then freeze it, and then go to the freezer and get that sofrito that it's already done. You can finish it in the last minute. But every time I have the opportunity to speak in public, which is not often, but because of my profession, I get to do it once in a while. I'm big in shopping, honestly, shopping and trying to go as often as you can and follow the seasons as much as you can. And the only way to do it, because we don't have a lot of outdoor markets, it's to go to your best grocery store and follow the seasons. That I'm big in, It is also important that beyond food, that we understand that you have a healthy life, a healthy Mediterranean diet without a great social life. It's important to eat with family. It is important. I have a kid, my 7-year-old son. We just had breakfast together in here. It is important also to eat in peace. It's important to, when you sit down to eat, that you're not in your computer, that you're in your bus eating your sandwich. It is also important to drink a glass or two of wine a day. I think that's important in the Mediterranean diet, that calms you down. And also, I think it's important to go for a walk, to exercise. I think it is super important, If you're able to put all this together, then you're in the Mediterranean diet. But you don't pretend to eat only vegetables the whole day, smoke a pack of cigarettes, be stressed, argue with your wife, argue with your kids, and go to bed unhappy. I think it's got to be a combination of all these, And I think us, as prominent chefs, we have a luxury, Michael was saying before, we're open first to make food to go, and now we're open at 25%. I'm washing dishes, I'm cleaning squid, I'm doing things I haven't done in years, but I think we're very, we have a luxury job, because in the United States, this excitement of people to learn from us has put us in the front run of education as far as food. So I think it's important that, once again, that beyond just eating your vegetables, that you put all this together to understand why the Mediterranean diet works in Europe and maybe not so much in the United States. But we're, I think, in the process.
And speaking of learning from you, we have audience questions. So I'm going to bring Paul and Michael back with us to join the conversation. And this is, hello again, Michael. And I guess you're now alone, so that's why you removed your mask.
Yep.
So the first question is something that I want each of you to address, because I think it pertains to all your cuisines and what you're doing. Just remember to be brief so that we can take all of the questions.
You were talking to me. Just remember to be brief. I got it.
Are you finding that younger generations continue to cook traditional favorites, or are these cooking skills being forgotten?
Which order do you want to go?
I'll defer to you guys.
Let's start with Paul, because you'll feel the social pressure.
Yeah, thank you. So repeat the question again, please.
Do you find that younger generations continue to cook traditional favorites, or are these cooking skills being forgotten?
Well, again, I don't know what people are cooking at home per se, but certainly the media and kind of what you're doing here is this elevation of interest. It's become a fabric of our culture. As Danielle was just saying, you know, before it was pretty rude. My diagram showed a rude example of U.S. dining habits, but I think that people are interested. We have a tremendous amount of curiosity. There was a time we didn't have any farmers markets. Now every town has a farmers market. So I think that the evolution that's happened in 15 or 20 years in the United States has driven the consumer, has been driven by media in better informed and a more curious consumer. I think we live in an affluent country, so that curiosity has been driven toward food. And I think that these recipes or the food styles that are popular, people are gravitating to. People are interested in authenticity. They want to know the story behind what they're cooking and eating. So I think I would answer yes to the question. I think that people are going more and wanting to experience more diverse foods.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things in Europe, this food is available to all the social classes. While in the United States, it seems like this is food for sophisticated people. You go to the grocery store and you tell somebody to spend $20 in a bottle of extra virgin olive oil that's going to last you for a long time. And they say, wow, this is expensive. However, you say, okay, get this piece of meat that you're going to eat today, and they go and buy it. So, I mean, I think there is a long shot of education in the United States. I would love to see if the government would put cooking 101 in high school, because it would help kids to learn the basics of sweating an onion, making a rice dish and a pasta. And I think in Europe, the advantage is that this is peasant food. It came from the farm, from the little towns into the bigger towns, but it never exploded. It's been a tradition, you know, the fava beans, the artichokes. I mean, all these dishes you guys are cooking, I grew up with this. You know, I come from a farm, little town. Then you come to the United States and you see that the discrepancy, you know, between rich and poorer, it really reflects not so much in the car that it's in your driveway, in the way you eat. You know, so I think education, and if somebody from the government hears me, you know, education, I think it would be the key of moving forward beyond people curiosity, but it's going to help the health of the United States on the long run. You know, the same way they say, okay, smoking is bad. Everybody stop smoking. They should put guidelines as far as what it's good and what it's bad. You know, fast food is horrible. Sodas or soft drinks are horrible. Let's for once cut that. But it seems like there's so much financial interest beyond that. But anyway, I could talk for a long time about this, but I think education should start by Paul and Michael and myself teaching our kids, teaching the friends of our kids, but that's going to take a generation, I think, to change, and the economics have a big influence on this, I believe.
Michael, what's your take on this question?
Well, unfortunately for me, my oldest daughter tends to relate to the world through YouTube, right? And that's both good and bad, in the sense that there's more information available out there than ever before in terms of learning traditional food. If you look at pasta grannies on YouTube, you can literally learn the most obscure form of pasta from a tiny little town in Italy. And 20 years ago, you had to go there, you had to know that person, but now it's in the public, right? So on the one hand, you have this tremendous diffusion of information. So much more is available now. There's almost a deluge of information. You almost don't even know how to sort through it. But people relate to it differently. You know, whereas before maybe things were passed down generation to generation in a family, you're seeing less of that, right? So, yeah, I mean, you have a juxtaposition of more availability of information, but maybe people don't appropriate it as well as they used to. But I do think that chefs obviously play a huge role in assigning importance to traditions, assigning importance to traditional ways of cooking. But I do think that especially now, and maybe the best thing to come out of of COVID is that people are more interested than ever in making sourdough bread, in making their own pasta, and hopefully some element of that remains after this is all over.
Pasta making is my quarantine project, and a friend actually gave me pasta grannies so I can learn.
It's awesome.
Do you think the comfort that has been established with takeout and delivery will hurt the dining side of the restaurant business? That's a big question.
Well,
No.
You don't think so? I think it's going to make a new way of eating out right now. I mean, we open at 25%, and people are really joyful to come out and have a cocktail and have a good plate of food and be served, be waited. I also see there's most of our clientele right now, it's very young, mid-30s, early 40s, when sometimes we had a lot of more of older crowd coming. But we'll see day by day, we'll see day by. I talked to other chefs that they're going to have a different program when they opening with ordering at the bar, and then you sit down more of a casual. I don't know myself how this is going to develop in the long run, and hopefully taking the precaution, this is not going to explode. But what do you think, Paul? Do you think you're going to change your way of serving now?
Yeah, I think we will for sure. I think the most important part is people have been quarantined. You're absolutely right. The older population is going to be more cautious. We have a broad section of types of restaurants in our group, but we're known in more of a fine dining. As I've gotten older, however, though, I find myself gravitating to more of a rustic type of food. When you're young, you're the alchemist. You want to prove your culinary skills, but when you get older, you start cooking what you want to eat, and so we're cooking more and more of that. And so as we come back, I think the number one thing is the trust factor, that we are able to get out, that our employees are being taken care of, and that they're super comfortable in the environment, which then inherently communicates to our guests that, hey, they're taking extra precaution. And then in terms of how we serve, we're going to be limiting. Listen, if we have a limited number of seats because of distancing, then we need to maximize that revenue. So in a way, we're going to be sort of retraining our guests a little bit, we hope, to be able to get them to understand that you can still have a journey to Italy at Ristorante, or a trip to the south of France at Lake Park Bistro, or I'll take you to Cape Cod at Harbor House, because the hope is to take them on a journey in our restaurants. If I were to be in DC, I know I'd go to Greece. If I were in Texas, I'd be going to Spain, and so our job is to give that experience back to the guests in an environment they feel comfortable. So I think it's going to be a whole new world. And, I applaud all of the restaurant colleagues because, and I look for support from the consumer, because it's an incredible industry that we're passionate about, but it's taken a body blow for sure.
Michael, you were shaking your head. You don't think that's going to change either?
I think that it's going to take time to rebuild confidence in the idea of going out to a restaurant in a social setting to eat, for absolutely sure. But once the things are in place that will give people that kind of confidence, i.e. vaccines, whatever sanitation protocols or distancing procedures are needed. But I think the desire to leave your house to go out to dinner isn't going anywhere. In fact, I think it's probably stronger now than it would normally be, because a lot of folks are simply tired of sitting at home,
It is.
So I don't worry about the demand at all. I don't worry about delivery supplanting. I do think that learning to do delivery well is probably going to be key to surviving in this business climate. And the people that can pivot quickly, do it well, and find a way to profit from it are going to do better than most. But no, people will still want to come to restaurants. And people are still going to want to travel. People are still going to want to go to football games. I don't think that is permanently altered, but I do think it will take time for the trust to be reestablished.
Yeah, and I think that the finances are going to be higher. We're used to pay top dollar for prime real estate, where we make little profit. The little profit that you had, all of a sudden it went like this, and now it's negative, that profit. So, I pay $12,000 a month rent. I don't even know how am I going to pay that amount of money right now when I can see 25%. And Michael, you had a key point. We started making food to go. First thing I did, I cooked my dishes to go, and I ate it 1 hour after, 2 hours after, 3 hours after, to see how I could improve that. Finally, to get the right package to people to take home, microwave it for an hour, 1 minute, and So that's going to be a big key. But I think a lot of us, I know myself, want to disappear from the map because unless you have a big corporation or a big guy with a lot of fat check in the background, it's going to be hard to make the money that we were making, you know. And I don't know you, but we have the obstacle. We employed 28 people. We had to let everybody go. The only ones that come back to work are the Latinos. The Americans didn't want to come back. We have no waiters. My wife is the server now. And I'm like, I left the kitchen and I'm bossing tables. The servers didn't want to come. But anyway, that's another story.
I want to take one last question from someone who has been looking at the poll's results. So it's great. Fill out the poll if you haven't yet and look at what your colleagues are saying. The question was, my main plant-forward menu challenge is, and 37% of people said, I want my sourcing to be more sustainable. So how does our panel think about sustainable sourcing for plant-forward dishes specifically?
I'll start right there. I mean, local, whenever can. I also think that we need to really think about balancing our menus with more variety. So not everything has to be a mountain. I'm watching the cauliflower and the eggplant. I'm like, I want that, right? And I'm looking at the fried Brussels. So what I'd like to do is I'd like a small plate of your Brussels sprouts, and then I'd like a small plate of your cauliflower, and I'd like a small plate of maybe some Carciofi alla Romana, and a small plate of Aglaia's bitter greens. And now I have my antipasti. I'm eating healthy. I'm enjoying it, but we must find a way to support local agriculture that is operating with good best practices. They have to make a living, so we have to support them. You know, olive oil is never going to be local in Wisconsin. Sad to say. So, but it's fundamental. Like there's never too much olive oil on a dish. So yeah, I think sustainability is a big part of it. But the best way to get people to operate for this healthier, sustainable environment is through taste. Because when people love something, they'll go back for it. So our job as restaurant people is to make really delicious food, to take them on a journey, to introduce a little bitter and a little acid and a little unusual flavor and a spice or an herb that I'd never heard of, Michael. Things that are new and different that I've never seen, so that we can like share our enthusiasm and get them excited, so they then go and they will search out better. Because bigger isn't better, better is better. It's not bigger portions. We all know that the portions should be smaller. We just need to make them smaller and more delicious.
So since he's a James Beard Award nominee, we're going to let Paul have the final word on this session. Michael, Daniel,
I'm sorry,
Paul,
guys.
thank you so
Michael,
much.
I'm sorry.
It was great to be with you guys. Thanks for this inspiration.
And thank you, CIA. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
I'm glad
thank you, everyone, for showing up.
I'll be watching everyone going forward.
Thank you. We are now going into our final event of the day, our networking reception. If you haven't yet taken the polls, I encourage you to do that. And I want to start by thanking our sponsors again for making this program possible, all of you for attending, and also all of the incredible people at the CIA who have been working like crazy and did it also all today to make this possible. It's a completely different model, as you can imagine. As during the break, we have a range of ways for you to engage with everyone who is also attending, from your peers and suppliers to the presenters. The slides will recap that for you. They'll be on a screen in a second. The activities include themed discussion tables, one-on-one networking, and our sponsor expo. And when you're going to sessions in the expo booth, please click on the blue button to share your audio and video, so that you can be participating in the conversation that way. I'll remind you that you'll be entered in a raffle for each activity you engage in. And if you attend and participate all 5 weeks, you'll be entered in a raffle for registration and travel to next year's conference. Daniel Olivella will be signing his book. You can purchase the book through the link provided, and then he'll sign a book plate, which will mail to you. Even if you already own his book, you can go chat with him. And then we want to make sure that you get a chance to offer your opinion on this first day of our virtual series. So please fill out the survey, which you will receive as a link via email. I think the email will go out tomorrow afternoon. So you'll get an email with a link with an evaluation. Please fill it out and tell us what you think. Enjoy the reception. Thank you again so very much for joining us today. We hope you'll also join us next Wednesday when we dive deeper into Plant Forward in practice, including building umami and leveraging high-value ingredients, as well as gain insights from leaders from our CIA FSR watch list. You'll find the full schedule at plantforwardkitchen.org. So, same time, same place next week, and until then, stay well and stay safe. Thank you.